Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sure, I swallow this mic. Agenda for the meeting today: approving of minutes for November 20th. President's remarks, general manager's report, with comment, old business, final review, and approval of 2014 budget. Cordwell resolution M09, final approval of that. New business discussion, parking regulations, myself. CPI actions, appointments, media questions, and adjournment. Any changes or adjustments? I know. Go ahead.
M09, we're going to push it off next month, just because.
Okay.
Also on the minutes, there's two other unspoken minutes that need to be filed. We actually out there. Written consent, which I think is next minutes. It is. And then we had a closed meeting the 6th. Purpose of minutes and approve it.
Okay.
So both, all three of those need actual approval.
Tom, can I add, if you don't mind, can I add an appointment
Sure.
to Park and Recs that I just received Thursday night? It's fine. For Skip Schlesinger, I have the original. Anybody want me to make copies of it?
You'll spell it, not the
SCHLEFINR.
Starts with a P.
Only in your world. Tom, do you want me to make copies of that now?
Just pass it out.
Okay.
Okay. I have one other. Michelle, I know there was one from the clubs committee. I don't know if they forgot to you or not.
Let's just hand it.
Okay, so let's do the same thing. Pass this one around too. John Weitzelberger to the clubs committee.
WETZELBERGER.
Yeah.
All right.
Wait, Tom. Weitzelberger.
Didn't we do it last time?
No, that was to the
He went to
Oh, he
the
went to
aquatics.
aquatics.
Yeah, he went to aquatics.
That was aquatics last time. He's
Yeah.
just
That's clubs.
joining.
And he's
Any other changes or adjustments at this point? Okay, approval of minutes, November 20th. Changes or adjustments to that?
Just to Marty's point, at the end of there, the following vote via email, Curdwell, about Chesapeake contract extension. So that's on there, Marty, or does that suffice for you?
Yeah, why don't we just all three? But I don't know the vote on those. I know I voted against it. I think unanimous. I think everybody else voted for it,
Correct. It was
but I don't think everybody was there.
Theory was not that great. It was,
No, I voted. I'll vote against going into this session.
Oh, you were going about the closed session, not
It's
about
4
what
to
happened
2.
in the
Yeah,
session you're
this is to
talking
go
about.
in. What happened in
It was 5-1 and 1 was the extension.
You abstained.
So it would be on January 16th is when we had the closed meeting in order to build the spot at dance in our schools. And of course, that both resulted in Jeff joining our board at this point. So people know what they're talking.
I'd just like to make a little announcement. This past week or so, we've lost two people in the park. One is John McCool, and today Mary Sipley's funeral is held at 11 o'clock. For those of you that don't know Mary Sipley, she's a personal friend of mine, but she was also our first Gold Star mother, the Veterans Memorial at Ocean Pines, and has been involved very, very closely with the Veterans Memorial through the years since the inception of it. And her son, of course, is Paul Sipley, who's been our chef at Ocean Pines. Mary's was quite an interesting lady, marched to the beat of a different drum is a nice way to put it, and was extremely talented. She was known for her world-class jewelry that she made and sold throughout the world. And this is a piece she made for me, and I'm wearing it in her memory today. So I just wanted to put in the records that we remember both of these fine people and appreciate their contribution to the Pines, and especially Mary's case to the Veterans Memorial and being our Gold Star Fund.
Thank you, Sharon. Okay, President's remarks. I guess I want to reference the hottest item on the street, which is the non-demise yet of the geese. There's all kinds of things spinning out there that I just want to level set. There is no motion in front of this board. There is no plan. Doesn't mean there won't be. But there is nothing in front of this board at this meeting. There is no plan in hand yet. We had a report from the advisory committee in December who, after looking at various options, suggested that possibly thinning or adjusting the size of the flock we have, the time has come that we would have to do that. We are seeking other solutions. This is not a decision that will be taken by these folks up here lightly, but I just wanted to make sure that folks realize we're not seconds away from pulling the trigger on that. There's a lot of thought that needs to go into this and put together. And again, we're looking for all kinds of solutions. And we've had one member of our community who has brought forward one partial solution, which I thank her for. And that's where we are on the geese. This is not something that's being taken lightly. And I just want to set the record straight there. That we're not rushing off to take action without full due diligence. Nothing more I can say on it. I don't hate these anymore than anything. Yes.
Bob was kind enough to pull that report from the environmental committee out again with some talking points in front of it. It was over there for everybody to pick up. So I thought that would have, because a lot of people don't remember what happened.
Give one Marty.
Okay, let's move along to General Manager.
Good morning. I'm going to hit a couple of things this morning. I'll try to go. I know everyone wants this meeting relatively short, so I'll go through some items we certainly circle back this week on it. Thank you, sir. All right, let's start by the numbers. We do a quarterly report. This is a time when we would give those updates. So we'll look at unaudited for the period ending 31 January. This is the operational side of the house. Bottom right corner is what everyone always looks to. We're, as of the end of January, for the operational side of the house, $130,000 to the positive bottom line budget. You can see where the variances are, the budget items, actual net versus budget. You can see we've closed the gap in some areas, and some of the gaps are still there. The more important one is going to be the next one, projected year-to-date variances, where we'll believe we'll end the year. $152,000 978, which it looks like if we project forward based on where our numbers look today and the additional items that are coming up ahead of us. So the numbers are looking pretty good right now, bottom line. The monthly report, you all have that as blue this month, so that gives you greater detail. Any questions on by the numbers?
Can you give me a minute?
Yeah. One, going from, this is just the month, correct? Current variances based on budget by the month of January.
Year to date, through the year to date.
Correct. 49,106, and then your 49,106. Let's pick on aquatics, just so I understand the drill. 49,106 is the variance for aquatics year to date. Now, projecting forward a full February, March, and April, we're at 51.8, so you're looking at potentially a little, what is that, 1,700 hour additional expenses for the next several months over budget in the aquatics area. Is that what you're saying? You get my point?
I don't get
Okay,
the point.
49,106 is projected year to date. We currently, in this fiscal year, have February, March, and April. Is that correct? 3 months?
Yes.
And
Yes.
this bottom portion is a year-to-date report, correct?
Yes.
Am I correct in that?
No, this is
Okay.
projected.
I understand. No, I got that. Hold on. So you are projecting a $51,837 variance as of April the 30th, just for aquatic.
Correct.
So the delta, the difference between where we are now and what you're projecting,
Couple thousand up.
correct?
Yes.
So why is that? I mean, February, do we get a lot of usage in February? Maybe March, we get a lot, I don't know.
grand over 3 months, it could be a variance for anything. We look at what the,
I guess what I'm asking, Bob, seriously, is how we come up with that. What's the thought process, the
I
planning
was going to answer
process
that for you.
to come up with that 51 number,
Okay, well,
or 52?
all right, so your question is, between now and the end of the year,
About $2,000.
why is there a $2,000 variance?
Why isn't it 3? Why isn't it 4? Why isn't it 1? Why isn't it break even? How can you project forward?
All right, let me try to answer you. 2,000 is just such a small number for me to give you exact detail. We look at what our
I don't need the detail. I need the thought process in coming up with 2,000 versus 5,000.
Okay, I'm going to try to answer it. You'll let me try to get my thought out.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, 2,000 is a very small number. We
Yep.
have a lot of variances we look at. We look at our staffing, we look at weather conditions, we look at what our propane costs have been, we look at what our class schedule is. All those go into each one of these types of different departments when we're looking at where we believe the variances are going to be. To tell you specifically where the 2,000, I can't begin to tell you that right now. If you want me to get detail on 2,000, I'll take next week, and Art and I can sit and do it. I'm not sure what the relevance on that one is. We have
Let's go to the next one. Let's look at golf for an example. Golf, we go from 101,544 to 87,4.
golf is mostly based on rounds, projected rounds, booked rounds.
So that we're going to have a lot of rounds in February.
We have a lot of rounds booked in April.
March,
So that 30 days is going to make a big difference.
March and April, that's 60.
The primary difference is April when we have the largest amount of bookings. We've exceeded the budget on what's booked. March is booking in that same direction now. We won't know for sure because everything's weather dependent. If we have a very wet spring, that number goes in the opposite direction. If it stays with the projected long-term weather forecasts are, then it ends up being where we're projecting.
Okay. All right.
Yes,
If I could, Mr. President, if I could stop by, maybe go through those numbers with you.
Which
if
numbers?
that's okay.
2,000?
Just this general. That's all. Just to get an idea of how you put it. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. I only take 5 minutes because I was simple.
Well, your question took more than 5. I guess it's going to be well more than 5. Happy to do it, though. We'll show you where they go. Joe, I mean, that's part of why we give you a monthly.
Yeah, I'm not challenging you, Bob. I want to understand that, and I want folks to look at these numbers in a realistic fashion. That's all. That's all.
Okay. Happy to do it.
Actually, going back to the beginning, the net of this thing is that as of right now, you are projecting a year-end positive variance, 152,978.
Operational, yes.
Operation. Okay, thank you.
And again, a big part of it's going to be the golf because of the weather.
Sure.
I know we're probably basing this on projections. You know, last year in April, golf lost 106.
And the same,
March lost 8,000.
and we all know what last year was, right? We were just finishing the greens, so we weren't getting the outside booking during that time period. We didn't start to realize the actual outside booking until the middle of the summer. So we lost the spring season we thought we'd have because the course was projected to be open and we get the outside booking. We did not. So if you try to compare it period to period, that was the biggest difference.
No booking agency is going to book into a golf course where they can't guarantee that the course is. That's where we were last year. We didn't know when the greens were going to be done exactly. So the booking agent said, "Nice, get back to me when you're ready." So apparently this is working out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We think so.
Okay.
Terrific. That's great.
Yeah. Again, it's unfortunately it's so weather dependent, but the way it's booking, our bookings are way up. It's actually pretty exciting.
Bob, you've had the word geese on the screen now for a minute and a half, and I'm getting worried. Okay.
All right. Look, this is a board issue brought by a committee. However, my office receives the majority of the calls. So I just thought
Try to
I'd
make sure it works that way.
I understand everybody's supposed to have plans to play golf and improve our bottom line, but I still just state the numbers. Just
Sure. Go ahead.
Are we going to discuss later on the closing of the country club?
let's do it right now. Put it out.
I'm just curious of why. I mean, you gave us a pretty extensive package in September. Two questions. You gave us a big package in September so we could vote, keep it open.
Correct.
And then it was closed with no vote. I
Correct.
don't even know what it was based on, other than I did say that our numbers weren't.
Yeah, if you looked at how many people were actually coming, the fall time frame, we decided to stay open. We had guests coming in to use the club. As the January time frame, it fell off dramatically. And by February, when you're tracking people coming into it, it was next to none. We had one Sunday, we had $22. So we have staff there, we have food and beverage, those type of things. So at a $6,000 a month savings is what we looked at. We would say by closing it down, we made that decision to do it.
More importantly, do we know why it was off? Well, January. January was off 40% from year over.
Isn't that when people migrate south?
Where were they last January? Last January, they did 60% more business.
I can't tell you why people are or not coming. I know we track it. We watch it each and every month. We hold the board at the time back in the fall if we kept it. I'm trying to answer, but if you guys...
No.
We're okay.
Okay, so we told the board that we were going to run losses, and we all said, okay, let's try this and see what happens. Those losses kept compiling. Initially we had a nice push. I mean, people were coming, but then it just fell completely off. So when we saw that, we made a decision, said if folks aren't coming, why go through those expenses? So we basically cut our losses.
Well, Mr. President.
We may still recognize.
I'm sorry. I thought we were done.
I appreciate the fact that we have management doing what management is supposed to do on a personal level. Somebody that goes there a lot. I didn't go in January because it was 20 degrees outside and it was about 30 degrees inside that building. The building has no insulation. It was freezing, and I couldn't sit there eating dinner because I had to have gloves on. I mean, that was just and that's what I heard from everybody. I said, you going Friday night? No, it's freezing. I mean, it never got past 30 degrees for the whole month. It was just uncomfortable.
If you look at you get your monthly numbers. If you look at them, utility costs, both there and at the pool, very, very hot. Again, we had the streak of 20 degrees below weather for a while. We just trying to keep up with that. We actually had a breakdown there twice with the heating system broke down through this winter that we had to do emergency repairs.
Jack?
Well, yeah, a performer question, Mr. President. By the way, I agree with Bill. It was colder blazes. My wife refused to go there, and I wanted her to take her over there, and she says no because the soup freezes before you can finish it. Anyway, the question I have to you, Mr. President, is that there was a motion put forward. I think in the minutes it says that I put forward the motion to second this and carried to keep the place open through March. Now, since a motion was on the table and approved by the board, does the general manager have a responsibility of coming back to the board and informing them that it should be closed now instead of waiting till March? I think that's a performer question I have in my mind. As far as the decision is concerned, I think it's solid. I think it's a solid decision, but I'm new on the board. I just want to know the performer. That's all. It's not an indictment of anything.
Okay, here's the performer as I understand it. And of course, I come from business management, not city managers and all those kinds of folks. In my opinion, the discussion around that motion clearly stated we would be willing to move in and give this a shot, and if it works, but if it really starts losing money, action will need to be taken. The wording of the motion did not specifically state that if it starts losing extra money that it should be closed. In a performance strict rule guideline, maybe we should have called a special meeting of the board to vote to close the country club. I, for one, am very glad the decision was made by the management. That's what we get paid them for. So the next time we do this kind of motion, we need to put into the motion the flexibility that allows the manager to do his job. So
Yeah,
by strict interpretation, you are correct.
No, it's not. I'm not questioning.
No, I know. I'm just answering your question.
Right. I'm trying to learn how it works here. Now, I agree with that.
Okay.
The any motion should be more specific as to any action
Right.
that
Any
Bob
flexibility
can take-
that's going to be
can
given
take
needs to be allowed.
unilaterally. That's correct.
Right.
That is, and eliminate some pushback. Okay.
Right. All right. On to the geese, unless Marty.
One more guy.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Jeff. We'll go to Jeff.
You may, just real quick, all the accounting for that was put in that, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, when we talk about how cold it was in utilities, just for the record, I'd like to state that January of last year, the utility bill was $5,100. This year it was $50. I'm sorry, this year it was $5,100. Last year it was $5,258.
For the yacht club. For the country club.
For the food and beverage operation.
Okay, last year we had the yacht club of
Okay.
2 different facilities.
Where would I find that? Okay.
Jeff.
I was here when the board adopted motion to country club. I was not on the board tonight. I recall that the wording of the motion talked about authorizing the general manager to do something. I don't think it said direct the general manager to do something. It said authorize. Authorize means you're allowed to. It doesn't mean you have to. And by the way, this board has used the word direct in its motions before. So the board knows the difference between direct, which says you got to do it, and authorized, which says you're authorized. You can. You're allowed to. So I read our actions, his administration actions, as being in compliance with what y'all said.
Okay.
Don't know what was in your head, but that's what I think the motion did. And I think he was right to close it on the basis of the number. And so I don't have a problem with it at all. And speaking now as a board member, I don't want every single action we could conceivably take coming back to this board, not in charge of operating this place in that sense. I don't want to be. I don't think we should be, my opinion. So I'm okay with what we did.
Okay. Good. On to the geese.
Sure.
I'm positive this time.
I said I was going to be short, but so you know, we have a lot more to cover.
That's still your fault, Bob.
I know, I got it. That's why I'm bringing geese up. I got nothing to do with it, but just so everybody understands, because there seems to be some information gap on what's occurred. And I know, Tom, I didn't know you were going to speak your president's remarks, so just some things to cover for everybody. Environmental and Natural Assets Committee did a committee report to the, okay, that's what started. They included talking points. We put copies of that over there for anybody who wants to pick it up, okay? Something that I thought was interesting when I read through the talking points was the type of control methods. And this is from the state, DNR, such, and you'll see the references in there of the different ways to modify, to change, to improve on whatever the term you want to use for controlling goose population. To date, no action has been taken. The board hasn't decided on any action. This was something a committee had brought to the board for consideration. Some things that we've looked at from the staffing side is other things that we're going to bring to the board to look at. Solutions. We had a scooper, is the best way I can explain it, this piece of equipment that is actually made that you tow behind a tractor that actually scoops up the goose drop. That's an option. Dogs. Dogs are another way that folks control geese. Wires. You run wires across the waterways. Geese can't land properly. It distracts them. They leave. Sound system. We've looked at, and I'm getting some more information on it. I talked to someone out of the area, but they've used a specific sound system, and I've included, this is what it is. It's in the packet. Super Bird Expeller Pro Sonic Bird noise. It's something that apparently sends out a specific, this was the larger one because this covers a 6-acre area. They had one 1-acre area. Wouldn't do what we need. But this one actually sends out a noise that scares, it's that, whatever the scare tactic is for geese, the warning sign, this sends out that same call, which makes the geese uncomfortable and they migrate elsewhere. So we are looking at other alternatives to help control the population, better control where we are. So just so you all know that not only did I hear what the Environmental and Natural Assets Committee said, we're also looking from our side one other options that we can give you for consideration whenever you all decide to make that decision.
Sure. Name it.
Doris, what did you say, sir?
I asked him to put it on the website as this packet.
Okay? So just want to make sure everyone was aware of that. Drainage.
If you are going to put it on the website, aren't there some recommendations from DNR on that issue?
That's what it is.
That's
There in the-
whole
oh, you mean the whole? You mean the whole thing?
Whole
Yeah,
packet.
okay, I got you.
Some
I'm
people
sorry. I
don't have
thought
to
you were
go
talking
back
about-
and look in their previous minutes.
And that's off a link. We can just put the link there. It goes right to the site, DNR site. Okay. Drainage, we have sent an email out. Thought we sent it this week, but it got kicked back. Resent it for Drainage Committee meeting or task force meeting. We're trying to get the first one set up for 6 March with the alternative date of 12 March. One's a Thursday, one's a Wednesday. That initial meeting is just going to be to recap what's been accomplished over recent years, to kind of level set exactly where we are with it, get the players together. That includes some county folks, some folks here in our community, as well as some stormwater management. So we're going to start that process. He's been invited, yes.
And Jack and County Commission.
Okay, capital projects. I'm going to hit you with a lot of stuff here. I'll try to go as quickly as the board allows. We have some capital projects coming up. This is a quick recap. I just have it up here for the slides, so it'll be in your packets. I'm actually going to hand you some materials on it. The first one that I want to talk to you about is we have something happening. It's an operational side, but I wanted to include it here because we've gotten some emails and some questions about it, and I thought I'd level set with the board. Every year we redo the hard shoe courts. We do a bid process. The hard shoe is sort of the softer tennis courts over there. We put it out for bid. We had two bidders this year. Not everyone, it's more of a specialty type. Not everyone bids on it. We elected, here's the work, the project plan, and then we elected to move forward with a particular company. You guys have received some emails or seen some emails where certain members were upset we didn't use the company they want. The fact of the matter is it's not by popular vote, it's by what they're going to provide to us and the quality of what we feel we're getting in bid. So we chose to go in different directions. The particular company that we're using this year has recently done some work for us in another area, and we were very pleased with that.
Is it necessarily the lowest bidder, Bob?
It's not always necessarily the lowest bid on any of the bids. We've got to look at what they can provide for us. In this particular case, it was lowest bid.
Okay. All right.
Okay, but this, again, I have it under capital. It's really operational, but because it's something that the board has seen some emails, or some of the board sent some emails on. I wanted to make sure everybody knew what was going on there. Okay, next one is the splash pad swimming racket. This is going to be a little larger, a little more detail on it. As you know, our baby pools, we've got to change those to zero entry, which means basically it has to be a slow, gradual entrance and egress from the pool. In doing that, this one has come up before. We've talked about different things. Parks Committee, I think Sharon, I think you've actually talked about this as well. So where we are right now is we put it out to bid. We had page 2 outlines the 3 companies, what they bid. We actually have this built into the budget, okay, for a much higher price. And Sharon, this is one you recall when we went through the budget process. It was closer to the first bidder's estimate. We have actually decided to go with the third bidder, and in this case, Jack, to your point, it's not the lowest price bidder. They happen to be in the middle, but they're still much lower than the other. We feel this gives us a good option. Now, the reason there's such a dramatic difference between 165 and 38.8, very big difference. We had to go back and make sure we understood where the difference is. The biggest difference is they were putting a whole new pump system in for the highest bid, which they felt was the right recommended based on the age of our pump, based on where we were. Since this is a relatively new item for us, we've never had a splash pad. When we went back and looked at it, when we looked at the pricing, we felt it was probably better to start a little smaller, start with our existing pad area, don't look at anything bigger, and work with as much of our existing equipment as we could. 2 bidders felt our existing equipment could work, and they felt comfortable saying, yeah, they could put it in under those conditions. So that's what the bid actually includes. The bidder 3, which is the one we're recommending, actually 16 spray nozzles, 4 base plates. What that is the spray nozzles, and I had to go back and look at, again, we're trying to get in great detail with these. Spray nozzles are what come out from the ground and they initiate the water action. The plates are actual elements that you attach to those, the water dumps, the squirt guns, and those type of things. So we can mount up to 16 small items or 5 medium size and 2 small items. I mean, spray nozzles put so much water out, and then your elements draw so much water. It's determined by how much water that element draws, how many nozzles you need to use. So this is kind of a good baseline kind of small project that we feel is a good start for us to try out splash pads versus zero entry for the pool.
May I ask a question? This is the group I think I attended the session on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I did attend the session, the presentation on the splash pad, and I was very impressed with the facility. They're going to keep that little umbrella or mushroom that's already there, but resurface it so it looks nicer, get the OP logo on there and everything like that. The nice rubberized padding for the children so when they're running they're not going to slip and hurt themselves. That was included. The water's features are very, very gentle. They're not like something they're going to blow each other over with these faucets. I was concerned because we're talking about 6 and under. They're very gentle little water things the kids can run through, and it just looked like a great, great facility. I was very impressed with the company. So I'm glad that you made that recommendation.
I appreciate you saying, because one of the things we looked at, and one of the big differences when you look at the highest dollar amount versus where our recommendation is, the highest dollar amount allowed us to take the splash pad in the future to some, I don't want to use the term aggressive, but really some elements that were age sensitive to the older, above 6. Because this is a baby pool, we said, let's start here, let's keep it age specific to that group, so our existing pump system will work fine based on 2 of the recommendations with where we are. And that's why we decided to go ahead and give it a try this way. Much more cost effective, and it was age specific. It doesn't give us a chance to go to the 6, 12-year-old because they want elements that push water further, a little harder, those type of things. But we thought replacing the baby with this was a good step.
And the decking, the ramp, the ADA requirement for the decking is going to be done by us.
Yes, I'm going to cover that.
Okay.
If you, this,
Investor question. One, I assume you're going left to right, 1, 2, 3.
yes,
Number 1, are they saying that our existing pump won't work and therefore wouldn't adjust there, or?
no, we could go back and do an adjustment. We've had experience with these bidders. We
Okay.
felt comfortable with what they provided and the info they provided. So we didn't go back and say, hey, can you bring it down to this and that? We went by what their
This is their
design
bid.
recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
We did have an RFP. My biggest question on this is timing. We need it this summer.
Yeah, what we'd like to do, if the board agrees with the 38.8, we're going to press forward with getting the process initiated. We're at that close point now. This was another determining factor. It's a small project for them. We're not replacing pumps and everything. So we felt we could get this in line by the June timeframe. They said about 30 days from the time they start the work. So if we get the contract awarded now, we're able to do it. And the neat part is this is actually something budgeted for the 14-15 budget, but they'll start the work after the May 1st timeframe, but if we award the contract. So that's why the timing's here today, to give us a chance to get ahead of that. It'll actually be 14-15, but it'll be immediately when 14-15 kicks, so we have it for the summer season.
And just a reminder too, we had in our budget $175,000. This
Well-
is coming 38 plus the decking.
175 is in the 14-15 budget, correct?
14-15
Which
budget.
you're
Correct.
hopefully going to approve in about an hour or whenever.
Correct. But what I'm saying, this is significantly under the budget.
Yes,
Budget positive.
yes. And
Hold on a second. I'm going to have to put you boys apart from each other.
I agree.
And I'll move the chairs.
I agree.
all right,
Yeah.
the other.
You interrupted me.
All right, the other part, again, if we're not out here when you want to be, it's on you all. I can move much quicker, just so you all know. I'm just saying, there's a ramp that also has part of this project. I put it up on there. There's not a bid. We can do the ramp. It's a wood ramp. The slope, you have to have a slope ramp to get in. We've already priced it out between labor and materials. Our public works team can do it. There's another $4,700 that you have to consider on top of 38.8. The biggest thing is get the go-ahead to move forward with the bid here. And if we do that, we'll go ahead and get everything started for the public works side. That's the end of that.
Are you in need of a motion now?
I am to support the third bid or the best aquatics bid.
Well, as the chair of the aquatics committee, I'm glad to make this motion.
Thought you might.
Okay, yes. I do motion or move that we accept the bid from the Best Aquatics to do the children's splash pad at the Swim and Racket Club as provided in documentation. Yeah.
Your second?
A second for discussion.
Can we correct that motion?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to correct you. You're not the chair of the aquatic committee. You're the liaison.
Liaison, thank you.
I was going to correct
Thank you.
that.
That might, you know, okay.
Motion is adjusted to have the right title. Yes. Discussion, Marty.
This is something that you should give us some time to think about. The motion could have been in our package. Pretty much the way our whatever agenda development goes, could easily be in our package. Read this before the meeting, and in the interest of moving right on, it would take nearly as much time as school. I don't know why we get this stuff with 3 minutes thinking time. Then it's a no-brainer, but still, it could have been in our package.
Nope.
Does the motion have to include the $4,700 for the handicap?
I would ask that, yes.
Modified motion to include the price. I don't think I put a figure.
We have 47.
Yes, okay, fine. And we have a second, just
Yes.
with modifications.
More discussion. Good. I mean, we talked about this during the budget process, and I'm glad to see it's coming. Even though it's replacement reserves and we're using money we've already set aside, this is good. Call the question on this motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Kids get their splash pad.
Okay.
Next.
I hand this to you in two components. Okay, Mumford's Pool, same thing. We have to address the zero entry. Again, this is a state requirement. This isn't us just saying, hey, let's do zero entry. This is a requirement. We've been able to delay for a couple of years, but we're at the point where we need to take action on it. I'm handing you two pieces. We're still trying to. The smaller one is a one estimate. We're still trying to look at part of why you didn't get this sooner is we're still trying to dial in for a two more estimates on this particular one. We'll start with the RFP follow-up. We had our three bidders for this particular project. This is zero entry at the Mumford's Landing. Again, the sports court or the swim and racket Mumford's, we have to do zero entry at both. This estimate includes two parts I want to point out. Page 2 is for the zero entry element for the pool. That's basically where they're taking the one side out, extending the decking and doing the zero entry. Page 3 of the document actually also addresses the pool itself, where the board has said, hey, let's look at, we need to get this pool fixed, and it was something we had talked about during the budget process as well. We had several folks come out and look at the project. Two were willing to bid on the project, and this is where the crack in the Mumford pool leaks. A couple of things that were interesting, and when you read through here, you'll get more detail on it, but that crack is an actual expansion joint that really should not have been quite finished the way it was, is how two of the engineers told us. It was meant to expand and contract as the movement, which was interesting to us, and that's what both these folks looked at and told us from the bidders. So we're recommending the second bidder in this particular case to accomplish both jobs for us while they're over there. Now, this particular item, if you recall, it's two parts, is not currently in the 13-14 budget, but the sports core funding was for the sports core pool. Okay, there was $60,000 for the sports core pool. And we've talked about this, but I'm kind of zeroing in now because we have the estimates. What we're recommending is the combination of this, what's up on the screen now, plus the Mumford's Landing crack where it leaks the water. The total of that comes to $68,000. We have sports core budgeted for this year for $60,000. So we'd like to replace the primary with the sports core money, because we're not going to do that work until next at the 14-15 budget, which is in the budget. And we'd like to do the Mumford's work, both baby pool and the crack in the current pool, get those things rectified. $60,000 covers it. We're short $8,300, so we need to do the additional expenditure of $83,000 to make that. That's what my recommendation is to you guys.
Sure.
As the liaison to the Aquatics Committee, thank you. When the last meeting that we had and I was able to attend, they talked about the pressure test of main drain, first thing that should have been done. Do you have any more discussion on that?
We actually talked to both bidders, and it's written in the report here. You'll notice the second bidder did not, because it's an expansion joint, they did not feel it was necessary to do a pressure test. One did, one didn't. You see the dramatic cost differences in the total bids of approximately 36.
But the pressure test is only $1,800.
Yes, but they.
But what I understood, and I am not an expert about pools, please
No, go
understand
ahead,
that
go
I'm
ahead.
just the liaison and I'm learning about this. But the pressure test for the main drain is, could there have been cracks in the drain or anything like that that's affected? That was the first thing that was recommended by the Aquatics Committee and hopefully passed on to you by your department head. And I'm concerned that that's not in this bid.
Well, you see the cost, so we can certainly move that over if we elected to. After the conversation with bidder B, they were emphatic it wasn't necessary, they could warranty the work, the whole 9 yards the way it is. So that's the recommendation that came over to us. If they're going to warranty the work, we've had some experience with them, and they didn't say they needed it. It was a cost savings. We felt that was a better option. If board would like to recommend to go the other, we want to get something from
And
the
then I
Aquatics
need
Committee.
to also get explanation on the hydraulic pressure injection. From what I understood that to mean, and we do have a member of the committee here that I might ask to, if we could
That'd be great.
ask
Yeah.
him to step up if you have anything to add to this, Gary. The hydraulic pressure injection was to, if I understand this correctly, and I'm not a techno wizard about this stuff, to inject a concrete sludge slurry, I think they called it, in the cracked area to bring the pool up to the level it should be. That's how I understood it to be. And again, I may be wrong on that. Can you add anything to that, Gary?
There were actually a couple of different issues. The expansion was covered over. There was at least some discussion that pretty sure that was not leaking. The cover that was put on should be removed so that the expansion won't occur. But my understanding was they didn't think that expansion was actually leaking. We are losing water somewhere, which is why the rectification pressure test was suggested by the community to see if the water was leaking through some pipes rather than actual cell. There's also some discussion about whether or not the mud jack in one corner is really going to be effective because we really didn't know what was under the pool and whether or not fusing some cement might actually move the surface of the pool to the point where it caused problems and fix. So there were some additional issues with mud jack, and that's why the suggestion was to do pressure testing first. To see if it was something with plumbing. The expansion joint is going to have to be addressed, but thought that was actually where the leak was coming from was not questionable.
Who is this geotechnical engineer that's referenced?
Gary, do you remember? Was that?
I don't.
Is he a member of one of these firms, or is that?
No, I think that was Heinz. Is that right, Val?
It sounds
I
right.
think it was Heinz.
Well, my point is not named. The name doesn't. But they aren't associated with any of these bidders. This is somebody separate.
Yes.
Okay, so this is an independent voice here, not one side or the other.
Correct. You remember it that way, right, Gary?
All right, now this Marble Light, $35,000, basically takes the second bid up to the level of the first bid, so we're not doing Marble Light, is that what I'm
No,
saying?
the Marblite versus Diamond Bright, and Gary, you were there at the meeting. Diamond Bright's what the Aquatics Committee recommends, and that's what we did with the newest pool.
all right.
A Marble Light's a lesser finish than the Diamond Bright. The new pool
Correct.
is the Aqua Diamond Bright. So any of our
Okay,
pools that we
okay, fair enough.
resurface,
Thank
we'd
you.
like them to be Diamond Bright.
Thank
They
you.
follow through. So to bring that 50 down to 35 would be lesser.
So one of them, number 2 is doing the Diamond Bright. 'cause
Yes.
they got the
Correct.
check mark.
Number 2
That's
is doing
correct.
the
Fair enough. Okay.
My question is that pressure test rate. That to me would be my question, and I don't know how to.
I mean, we
something
can
that
add it. We can certainly request it as part of this.
and only because of the expertise of this, we have a very strong aquatics committee, and their expertise recommendations.
Gary's not so strong. But
Gary's not so strong. I'm certainly not strong, but the rest of the people on that committee are.
Yeah, no.
So I feel that would be one thing I would like to see in there. Would you agree on that, Gary? That was. I don't know the answer on the injection thing. Hydraulic pressure injection. I don't.
Yeah, the injection,
know the answer.
what was determined, Gary hit it, was because of the uncertainty and the pressure it's going to put, you're going to shift the concern is the additional damage it does, because that's what we first thought we wanted to do with it. But after we did some more research, the concerns are what does it create? The problems it can create that were larger than the potential solution.
If I could, one thing. Apparently, the settlement on that one, the thought is that most of that settlement happened within a relatively short time after it was installed. Apparently, it is not settled past 3-4 years anyway. So the idea that you actually have to do the mud jack and level it up may not be as important because the thought is that it's probably settled to where it's going to be stable for some period of time.
Well, the other, Jeff?
What's the warranty on the bidder?
Do you remember that, Gary? I don't, Jeff. I can get that for you.
They're all like the same.
Yeah, there was no big difference in warranty for them. I just don't remember what it was.
Okay. Well, the question actually has several parts. Is there a warranty? What is it? Would be useful to know. The other thing, if they're willing to stand behind their work without pressure testing the main, do we really know that much better than they? I mean, do we know that? I mean, do we have the credentials to know?
The
better
credential.
than they do?
I would say the committee has very strong credentials. So I would, and that was as a result of consensus on the committee that people work. This is their business. They work in.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I get nervous go against recommendations of people who know.
Right.
Okay, the committee nails in people who know. Okay, thank you.
And we actually, this is one of the committees, just to alleviate a little bit of that, we take a lot of input from Aquatics. They're very good. I'm comfortable with the talent there that they actually give us some good, solid information. So if their recommendation is to do a pressure test, I can accept that as probably a reasonable recommendation given their experience. But it's not just people that like to swim. These folks have industry.
You also,
Fair enough.
yeah, you also have to remember one put it in there, one no.
Okay.
So one of them said yes.
Okay, well, and this is where my question comes. Hang on. This is where my question comes in. I'm trying to balance these things that, company number 1 on the left, if you take out pressure test and the hydraulic so that you balance them, they're still at about, did the math very quickly, they're still at about 62,000 versus 50-some thousand the other. if you add in, and this is going to get convoluted, if you add in the pressure test, the other one, there's about a $10,000 difference. I'm just trying to level set these two.
Well, the challenge, I understand that, but think about your level set. Company A, this is their recommendation. They're not going to take anything out. For them to do the pool, this is what they're requiring. I can't go back and say, don't pressure test because they won't give us the warranty on it. So the level set, you follow what we did
Yes,
there?
their warranty won't apply if they don't get to do this work.
They have to do it the way they.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand the whole deal. Come to you in a minute, Gary. Gary's joined our conversation.
Yeah,
which is fine with me.
Gary, he had his hand up before me. Go
ahead, Gary.
And he knows more about it than I do.
Me. The question seems to be whether or not the warranty work is made important. My question would be, does the warranty include fixing a leak if they don't do the pressure testing? In other words, are they only warranting work doing if they don't do pressure tests and we're still having a leak? Are they going to come back, do a pressure test, and replace piping that may leak?
Company B is going to warranty their work without the pressure test. Company A wants the pressure test to warranty their work.
Their work, does that mean that they're going to assure us that it wasn't going to leak?
A or B?
Either one.
Well, A will warranty their work with the pressure test. B will warranty their work without the pressure test.
What is their work?
Their work were
To repair the pool.
It won't leak.
Yes.
And I,
Good, hang on, Mary, Marty, you got your hand up.
The amount is $50,300 is the bid you recommend,
Correct.
plus the $86.90.
Correct.
My question
What,
is,
86? Where are you getting the 86.90?
I'm sorry, 18,000.
Okay.
1,800.
18,000. Pools and spas, 18.
Oh, that's for the baby part. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the pressure test.
No. Here's my question. See, we're gonna, I guess, do Diamond Bright or some nice finish on pool. Either bid, right?
Right.
Our recommendation is Diamond Bright.
Okay. I don't see in here anywhere a cover for this pool. I know that the aquatics, everybody's looking at covers of these pools. When we winterize them, how much is a cover for this? I mean, I don't see any reason to Diamond Bright a pool and then not leave the water in it covered.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been part of the bid for a cover, but as a point of reference, the yacht club pool was about $9,000. Real close to 9.
That was going to be my next comment, but I just realized, if I may make a statement here, we have another member of the committee, Tom Stiles. I apologize, Tom. I didn't see you there. Is there something you want to add in regards to this? Because he's also one, and I apologize for not seeing you. Okay. Okay, I just didn't want to.
What I would recommend, and the cover situation is probably that it's not this, but if you recall, we have in the budget 175 for the other. Why don't we plan to pull the pool covers out of that gap we have there for capital with the board's permission, and we'll price to put pool covers in. We'll still be below what the overall estimate
Well, the
was.
recommendation from the committee has been as soon as we get a pool Diamond Bright to get covered, because it will keep that pool in good condition, the Diamond Bright.
Okay, let me get into the details of the covered pool. We're not going to, the cover, we buy a cover to put on a pool. It's not going to be put on and taken off, put on and taken off every day. Right? The cover is for off-season,
End of the
right?
season,
End of
winterized.
season. So
Correct.
we're talking about, all right, so we've got time to, well, I'm not against the financial way of doing this. If the money's in the budget and it's maybe approved here in a few minutes. But, we've got room here. I just want to make sure I was clear that we're not talking about a roll-up cover that's coming out every day and all that.
Winterized.
We're talking about winterized cover.
Just like you see at the
But it was good he brought it up because it's a Diamond Bright, so we'll look at that and we'll start getting some pricing on them.
Right, let me come back to this pressure test thing, because as people know, I try to pay real good attention to my advisory, and they're saying that we need a pressure test to know that the work that's going to be done might actually fix the problem. Is that what I understand the pressure test is going to do?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that being the aquatics liaison for Sharon, I think that committee would feel much more comfortable. They have a humongous amount of history with these pools.
Yeah.
And having that piece of documentation as part of their history as we move forward would be very important to them.
Well, I personally would be a heck of a lot more comfortable authorizing this kind of expense if it includes a test to make sure the work's going to make a difference. I don't mean to be flippant about it, but it's just, to me, that would be, I would like to get Company B here to, I don't know what their price would be on the test, but if it's the same amount. I mean, if we want to move forward on this, we can move forward with a approval to spend up to an amount.
With the required pressure.
With the required pressure
We can
test.
do that.
We can do that. I would also like to include pool cover, because I think you're right. Without, we need to get prices on that.
I would request that this motion does not include. Let me get the pool
For a
fixed.
couple of reasons.
Okay.
We're 10
All right.
G's over any budget at all right
Okay.
now.
Well, okay.
Let's not make it 20, then I'm going to have a hard time.
Yes.
That's fine. Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right. But I for one, I think we ought to do the test. Really should. So
if we're looking at not to exceed number,
53,000.
that sounds good to me. Okay.
for this part.
For that part.
For this part here, that it will include the second bid, pressure test, main drain to be included in there.
So it's 50,300.
To be not to exceed 53,000 is what we're saying.
That's right,
Because we do not know
Okay.
how much that pressure test is going to be, but we want to have a top number on it. Does that seem realistic with everybody on board?
Yeah, I mean, if it's more than $800 more than the other guy, I want to buy it.
Correct, I would too.
Right.
All right, then I'd like to make a motion that we accept this bid of not to exceed $53,000 to include the pressure test for the main drain.
And AP.
And the children's splash pad, the,
Zero entry.
I'm on the wrong page, zero entry. You want the best aquatics is what you recommended, correct, Bob?
Yes.
Okay. The best aquatics bid for
No.
No, wait, which one were you?
Spas.
Pools and spas? Okay, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one. Okay. And the pools and spas bid, okay. Yes, I'm sorry, pools and spa for both.
Okay, so the motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so the
You
motion.
understand the motion?
I'm going to make sure you understand the motion.
Marty,
This is where I'm going.
The numbers are right. We should say is that we're taking this money, or the lion's share of it, out of the 60,000 currently budgeted to resurface the sports court.
Correct.
Correct.
And we budgeted for sports corp.
I know, it's in the
Right.
budget.
Correct.
But
And our aquatics committee, as I understand, agrees with this change. Is that right?
Aquatics committee, okay?
is that correct,
Okay, I
Marty?
got two aquatic committee members shaking their head, yes, that they agree with it, okay. Okay, so the motion, to make sure I understand the impact here, it is $53,000 plus 18, which, I mean, first it's not to exceed $71,000 to perform the work that is in this package, but to include a pressure test, right?
Correct.
Bingo.
Moved and seconded, and we already had the debate.
Can I,
Go
what
ahead,
did they just say?
Sarah. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was having a Marty moment.
I'm sorry, go right ahead.
I almost wanted to say, why do we have to make it 53? Why make it 52, 150, and make it? But I won't. I'm just saying.
Turn her mic on.
I like your thinking. It's a good point.
I'm getting scared. Any other comments? Jeff, anybody? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you.
All right, the next one.
Thank you, Aquatics Committee,
Thank you.
for all the work you guys did on this. And Bob, you and Jerry and everybody else too. It was a lot of work.
No problem.
It's the right thing to do.
Now, this is also Mumford's. Okay, we actually.
Hey, Bob.
Yes, sir.
Can I just make a recommendation? Because I'm a new guy. I'm going to, and I hate to say, I really hate what I'm about to say, but I do agree with Marty about, giving us pre-notice about, bringing these things to the board in the form of a motion so that we can, we openly discuss it for 5, 10, 15 minutes and then come to a decision. Just to go through the thought process.
Okay,
It would help me.
Just to be clear, in order for, and I'm not against that, but you asked the pro forma question earlier.
Yeah, I did.
We would have to have, in this case, it would have been, in my opinion, Sharon writing a motion in support of the documentation that provided us. Bob can't make a motion.
But he can make a request, he makes a request for funding.
That's right. That's right.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay. It's just information. That's all. And I think any reasonable person on the board might want to peruse a couple days before vote day. Is that an
No, I don't want to study any of this stuff. No, I'm just joking, obviously.
Well, you're going on vacation.
I'm joking, obviously. All right, go right ahead. Good. Well, we will take. All right, Robert.
Yeah.
You're taking a lot of time here, Bob.
It's your time.
I want you to know.
Okay, the next thing, this is also in the Mumford School area, replacing the fence. Unfortunately, we put it out for bid. We only ended up with one bid, so that's why I went ahead and included it, because all this work has to start happening soon. This particular bidder is one that we've used for pools. Just did the yacht club pool for us. He has done the majority of our pool work. He has been the low bidder every time thus far. I don't have a problem trying to get additional bids if we can get a motion not to exceed, but because we're trying to get this done before we open for the Memorial Day weekend, we'd like to get approval to move forward. This is a budgeted item. This is actually just a few $100s below the budget for 14. Yes, sir.
I am not the liaison to aquatics.
Are you the chair?
Are you
And
the
I
chair?
can't- And I can't stand sole source bids. Great contract, reasonable price. I move to accept it.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? Those in favor? Aye, opposed? Thank you.
Really? Holy smokes!
Marty speaks, we listen.
I still think we should have had some notification prior.
I urge you to purchase.
It's dated the 6th. I know you were waiting.
Keep going. I need
All right, I'm going to keep moving.
Please do.
This one is for information purposes. You have it. I'm not asking for action on it. Okay? This is just in your packet. We are looking at the bridge work, the different pieces of the bridge. We included what the RFP information, no action needed by the board. Just wanted to put it in your hands to give you a little update on it so you have some information when I come back and ask you about it. We're working, as we said, on the computer architecture for the organization. We're trying to redesign what we have. We're starting to have multiple failures now, servers and other items going down. We do not have this in the 14 budget. However, we've elected to forego purchasing another capital piece of equipment in lieu of putting this ahead of it, just because this one takes a higher priority for us. We are actively, we've defined what our software, we've upgraded some software, as you know, for example, Net Facilities, we went Cartograph Net Facilities at the end of this past year for Public Works. We're looking at all of our different software products that we have to make sure it's exactly what we need. And we're looking at moving forward with an RFP shortly. It's probably going to be a design build, is the best way I can explain it to you, for the bid for the work. It's going to straddle 2 years. So what we have is monies in this year's budget for a piece of equipment. We're not going to spend it on that piece. We'd like to apply it towards the technology side of the house. And then when 15 kicks in, we want to put what's in the budget towards it as well, so we can take a pretty big leap forward with technology. Some things, just so you know, that we've already done and revisited, so it's not a new project for us. I've updated you guys. We're working on it This is just further enhancing it. We know where all our connectivity is. We know what servers, what routers, what between each building, between each of our facilities, how it works. We have all that nailed down, which is a big plus because that helps us when we look at how we want to move forward, a keen understanding where we are. We also have gone through all our software and validated what each department uses, how the software is distributed throughout the departments, what works, what doesn't, what other things we need to consider. So that's already been fleshed out. We're doing some final little pieces on that to make sure we have that completely nailed down, because you can't ask for infrastructure upgrades if you don't know what you're going to run systems like software. So we're doing that. I've actually asked Jeff for some help on this, and he has been instrumental in helping us looking at the RFPs and going through it, so I appreciate that. So that will be coming very shortly. We're going to be putting the RFP out think of it as a design build, because if we've actually constructed a couple of RFPs, and what's interesting, we're trying to tell them in an RFP exactly what we want. Here's the hardware, and here's the program. We just can't, we're not actually qualified, as Jeff is about to say, correct?
He already
Good.
said
Oh,
it. She
okay.
said here.
No, we are not qualified to say that. We can talk about requirements, the software review that we did as a part of it, and those kind of things. We can talk about what we need. We have no clue as to how you could accomplish it. To make matters worse, there are probably about a half a dozen different ways you can architect it, and maybe more. And if you go out and try to submit an RFP that you don't know how to write, and you get back a bunch of responses that cannot be compared to each other at all, you'll end up at the end of the day with a lot of work and nothing to show for it. The better approach is to do design build. You pick your contractor on the basis of qualifications, work they've done, and so on and so forth. And then you turn around and say to them, okay, now build it. And you put in a mechanism to monitor the prices. No, just skip that. You put in a process to monitor the prices, but you don't go bid them. Because then you could end up with a situation where the designer is not the builder, and I can tell you for a fact that's about the second dumbest thing to do. Because you will end up starting out the project this. They'll point in either direction, and they'll be, the guy in the middle is the one who's responsible. And you'll notice there's no one there. So the approach is, the approach is about the only one that has a chance of really working. And it does. It's more than a chance. Yes?
I don't have to tell you, this is way over my head, and that's the way I would keep it. But wouldn't we just do an RFP or a scope, get 3 legitimate bids? The scope can be fix our computers.
Well, okay, and I can jump in on this, okay, because what Jeff said and what I started with, okay, we're not technically competent to write a scope. Think of it this way, because it is how I had to come to terms with it. Use our yacht club project. We decided how we were going to use the facility, what the use was going to be. Then we went to an architect, design build type of thing. We went to put it out for bid, but we knew what our requirements were. What we've now done from our perspective, between the software we're using, between the infrastructure we currently have, we've defined as far as we can go of what we know. I need to be able to push this button and get this result. I need to be able to put this customer information in and get this to happen. How everything works behind it and how to feed that between the facilities is foreign to most of us. So what our plan is take the RFP step and say, we've identified this. You, IT consultant, give us a bid based on your experience, your background, what you think we need to meet our minimum requirements. Would that be an accurate way to describe it?
You know what I just
It is basically what you just said, Marty, yes.
perfect.
So that's what we're doing. But we had an RFP written more specific, but then we realized it boxed us in, and we're probably not going to get, we won't have the future design that we really need. So we're trying to widen it and let the experts tell us.
I I certainly approach a lot the way you're going about this. Jeff, you obviously have more knowledge than I do. So I 30 years at Verizon. You came from Intel. A little closer to this project than I would. But it certainly makes sense to me. I wouldn't have a slightest clue right there for this at all.
Yeah, we did. This stuff, unfortunately, can be, and often is, insanely complex. And the slightest difference can make a real difference in the way the system operates, which is, to be honest with you, what OPA cares about and what it should care. I don't think we give a whatever about how it gets done. But how it gets done makes a difference, makes a real difference. And we can build, with no effort at all, we can have built a slightly faster version of exactly what we have now. That is perhaps a little more reliable, but that's what it is. I don't think that's what the association needs. I'm not sure we know what, but I don't think we need that. I think a solution that actually looks like somebody planned it and is intended to work. So I like the approach we've come to for this thing. And although it's a little different than we're used to seeing, I think results will end up being much better than if we try it our traditional way. Because when I say we don't have a clue, with all respect to everybody, not have.
Jeff, if I may, how do you feel about expertise within the community, individuals who have retired from IT, individuals who verge on it? I get a general idea, general concept, what we're trying to accomplish here, bringing that expertise to bear under Bob's, influence and direction, in order to cover all of our bases in terms of developing this RFP, not resolving the problem, not building the system, resolving the writing of the RFP.
That's a decent idea. By the way, here's the problem. IT is a space that's about a mile wide.
Right.
And you can be an absolute, hands down, expert in IT and not have a clue how the network works. And what you're talking about here is you're talking about network engineering design. It's a subset of IT. It's conceivable that there are people in the association that would have that skill. I don't know everybody. I haven't met any. And I don't think in this case that's a really good idea. If there's some way to involve them around thinking about how we should run the place, however, there may be some value there. But if you're not a network guru, okay, you won't be able to do that.
Well, your last statement is exactly where my head is, that if there is an individual that can look at our current system, the system that we currently have in place, see its inadequacies, see the potential for proper correction, use some of their experience in order to bring some ideas to the table, and then the RFP is generated. My sense is what I'm hearing Bob say, and what I'm hearing you say is, we need expertise to come in and take a look at what we have, what is our current architecture, what is the current structure, how inadequate is it, how do we bring it up to the 21st century with the necessary hardware and software in place in order to adequately communicate between all entities within this operation. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's mostly correct, but you really have to know what you're doing when you do that. It can't be, I know a little bit about this or a little bit about that.
But what I'm hearing is, I may be wrong, but what I heard you say is the important thing is writing the RFP. Is that correct?
Writing the first one is not that hard. Evaluating that little sucker back will be a little tricky because you're now looking at credentials of consultants, and you have to weigh those and figure out, well, how important is this versus that.
I think there's a standard, Bill, on a going forward approach that if there is someone in the that has that kind of network engineering, IT can step forward and put them on the team. And there's no reason we
All
wouldn't.
right, let's move there for a second. I mean, no, just, if you're gonna run the committee by committee, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this. Well, okay, then go ahead and do what you gotta do.
What action do we,
I think our process is solid on this. Differs from what we've done before. Called the ICUP, had a committee, worked very closely.
the reality is the process is not being challenged at all. What action do we need to take?
You don't have to take any, this is an awareness.
Nothing today?
Marty wants to talk.
I just have a quick question. Because I'm looking at this, what would I do? And I know secret. Pretty good at throwing. That's it. There are, if you go to the yellow pages, there are 5 computer companies of any character that I can think of. What would it cost to hire one of them to come in and do, here's what you need to do? I mean, what would that cost?
Excuse me, that is precisely
Precisely what
what
we're
this is intended to do.
That is precisely what they're talking about.
It is intended to examine.
Clearly over my head. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We don't need to take any action on this. What's next, Bob?
Sure.
Sarah, I'm sorry.
I'm going to forget my
My
comment.
peripheral vision.
I'm going to forget it. Thank you.
Okay. Police station, it's in the budget. Just want to give everyone a heads up of how we plan to proceed with this. And it's in your packet. We're going to put this in multiple phases. Initiation, basically, and the chief's already putting his internal team together. They will identify the facility, the challenges they have with the current facility, and from once they've done their internal review, we'll add a couple more players to that, and that will become the project design team. The next phase that we get to, project planning and pre-design, that's when we'll do a formal space and needs analysis. We'll move to evaluate facility options. That's renovate, build, whatever. We're nowhere near that yet. At that step's when we're determining does our current space, based on the needs analysis, based on the challenges we've identified, does our current facility have the space if we gutted it over, or we have to look at some other options. At that point, we'll also decide based on our current space, if we need to expand, do we expand next to it? Do we relocate the police department? Those things will happen all in phase 2. Move to phase 3, budgeting and funding. Develop a preliminary project design, which would include the construction costs, and a lot of that's going to be driven by the space analysis, challenge pad, all that goes into it. Final site decision, that means whether remodeling where we are, whether we're expanding where we are, or whether we're relocating from there. From there, we move into design and delivery. We put the RFP out for the facility, probably do a design build like we did before with our requirements in there. Evaluate the RFP, make the builder selection, and then begin the facility, whether it's renovate or build new. So I thought it was important, knowing the budget was about to be approved, to give some clarity on the steps that we would have once this is approved with the project, because this will be our next big project we start down the path. Marty, your hand was first. No? Josh?
What's your timing on that, Bob?
On which part?
It doesn't matter, the whole thing. When do you start the initial phase?
We've started step 1 already. That's with the chief identifying his internal team to evaluate challenges they've had. So we've already started that. Once the board approves it, we're going to keep moving forward. We didn't do a timeline yet, because that'll be something in coming weeks that we'll start to develop.
Well, do you have any idea as to when this project would, shovel in the ground? And are we talking about this fiscal year or the next fiscal?
It's in the 14-15 budget.
I know that.
So
you're talking about the next fiscal.
it's going to depend on what we need to do with the project. We have not decided what the project will look like. That helps determine when the shovel goes in the ground. If it's a remodel, as an example, you got that facility, it happens quicker. If you're adding on to the facility, a little slower, but still relatively speedy. If we're moving to a different location, it's a completely different project. But we're not there yet. None of that has been decided. But we thought we'd put a pretty much a skeleton of what the.
Well, this is for informational purposes only. Okay.
All right. Everybody good? Quick update on the yacht club. This is in your pamphlet. It's all, or in your reading material. It's also on the website. We do the updates every week. So we'll make sure this one, I'm not sure. This one up Friday, right? Not yet. So this will be up Monday for us. But for those who haven't been over to see it, I thought I'd just, as usual, give you some pictures. Second floor outside deck. Front tower that's completed. When I say completed, framed in. Bathrooms. That's the second floor inside. Of light, because this is pretty amazing to look at space-wise. And we'll put these are obviously going to be up on the website.
These are on the web.
What?
These
We'll get these up, all right. So these, go on the website, look, we're trying to do regular project updates. This is the second floor you're looking at. It's actually spectacular. A lot of drywall. The work they're doing in there with the mud dropping and moving of the equipment, it's pretty intense how many people are working during the day. That's us looking straight up in the center of the floor. Outside, some outside shots. That's the view from the second floor. You're kind of looking down out. That's part of where we laid the building out, so you would get that view. That's it for me. Questions?
John?
Yes, sir.
On the yacht club,
Yacht
we
club.
haven't gotten an updated schedule since December. December still sound?
Yes. Yes, December still sound.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We're down to a week. We need a delinquency report for our resolution. Are we going to make that, or are we going to be close to that?
We'll make that.
We're going to have a special meeting. I'm just going to send it.
I'll send it out to you.
Remember, I'd like to attend that meeting.
I'm aware of that.
Okay. Public comments.
Okay, my name is Bob Bowersmith. I'd like to make some comments and suggestions. In the budget, there's a proposal to increase the slip fees. Marina, I'm going to focus on the 26 foot and under. The increase is projected at $80 a year. Okay? For the past couple of years, we've had vacant slips, several vacant slips. Park and Rec, I guess, could give the exact number. But I know that there's a number of vacant slips. That never happened before. We're talking about an $80 increase that might generate $4,000 to $5,000 in additional revenue. When we think about slip revenue, it's virtually 100% cash in our doors. There are really no expenses associated with the slips. I mean, you have people there that, we have the dock attendants, and they're there pumping the gas, taking care of the MPC dock, and servicing customers. They come in for gas and snacks and that. But there's no expense, if you will, involved with the slips. Every couple of years, they spread a coat of the deck paint, and that's all they ever do. Okay. If we increase the fees and lose 3 more slip holders, we'll go into a negative position as far as revenue coming in the door. A bold suggestion. How about if we reduce the slip fee back to $1,600? Okay? Make it known throughout the fines. We reduce it to $1,600. In addition, put maybe an ad in the Courier or the Gazette or one of the newspapers. Unused slips can be rented out to non-property holders. In other words, just general public outside of the fines at a $400 premium. So if you reduce the fee to $1,600, I'm going to pay $1,600. A guy that lives in Berlin that wants to put his boat in there, he would pay $2,000. Okay? There's a good chance that you might then be able to lease out 100% of the slip. Again, it's a moneymaker the way it is. I'm concerned that, number one, raising the slip fee is going to impact me, but that we're going to start losing more slip holders and go into the red. And when empty slips are sitting there, nobody's making anything out of them. So I'd like the board to reconsider the proposed increase and give a little bit of thought to renting unused slips to the outside world. Each year in February, you get a letter if you're a slip holder. Do you want to re-up? So if there's a concern that, well, if we release to outside people and then inside people decide they want to get a slip to put a boat in, they're not going to be able to get a slip. In February, you send out the renewal notice to all the current slip holders, and you would have a list of people that wanted a slip that are residents. You send them the offer sheet, whatever you want to call it, and if they sign up, then you don't send a renewal notice to the non-resident slip holders. Don't sell out all your slips. Non-resident people get a renewal notice, same as everybody else. I mean, it's an easy thing to control. But the fact that we're having empty slips, and it's been the last couple of years, that's not good. That's my 2 cents on that subject.
Thank you. The reality is that there was a lot of work done on evaluating the slip situation, to the effect also of setting aside slips so that they would be open for people to vote in and use the brand new facility that we're just building here. And the idea that the slips would be empty this year with that new facility sitting there. I mean, we went through a lot of discussions around this. It was not arbitrary. Bottom line, we got a brand new facility, a brand new pool. We just built a shower facility which wasn't there before for the boaters. So we have in fact improved the product for the boaters, and we are in fact setting aside slips for people to be able to come in and eat at our breakfast at the yacht club. So again, a lot of these thoughts were thought of, and I think there was a complete plan put together for that. Next, yes, sir.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Logan Trendick, 20 Dropage Road. I came this morning to this meeting with the idea not to make any comments, then I changed my mind. And the reason I changed my mind, I saw a couple of slides that Bob presented this morning, which triggered my thoughts. So first on a light subject, the discussion on geese. I noticed a chat room going on around this topic, and one thing in particular captured my attention. So I understand from your slide that you kind of looked at DNR as a source of information, what government is suggesting to do, the wildlife population issues. But then I also saw social media, and in doing so, somebody highlighted a pretty creative way of dealing with some of the issue. In particular, the case of geese, they basically used an artificial plastic alligators, scattered them around the pond, and it actually worked very well. So the population, you kind of preserve the wildlife. I guess what I'm suggesting in the comment is really, don't just rely on the government. They're not always state of the art. Look at what social media is promoting. Look at how innovative they are really getting. Now, on a more serious discussion around your software system, computer issues, I don't question, the intent or the motivation or the needs. And I know Jeff and I share the industry legacy. He spent a lot of years in the industry, and I have about 30 years myself. So I want to just come across with a couple of very important points. What I will be looking at as a resident as you go forward next is, and this is why I decided to make a comment, because I haven't heard this discussion, like to see the OPA team and the board, whoever is involved, look at the best business practices. We're not the only community in the world as far as the HOA goes. So there are a ton of them out there that have gone through the very same issues. And best business practices are out there. There is an institute on the community, the HOA community, that can read different reports on this. So I encourage you, look at the best business practices. Don't try to invent anything. You know, this is a complex environment, as Jeff said. I have witnessed multi-million-dollar projects, IP projects, failed by the large corporations. So, you know, that tells you how complex this environment can be. And Marty certainly has stated that several times. But when I talk about business practices, one of the things, just as an example, that I would like to see, consider, you know, there's a complex part of the operation which is very relevant to communities, and there is not so complex, which is common across the board. That's your back office operation versus your front office operations. So when I refer to the business practices, I'm talking about some of the things that could be outsourced, control the costs, take the complexity out of existing operation. So I encourage you to do that, and I hope, you know, this is going to lead to more discussions. I think the last thing we want to do is see something that involves not just the design and build, but also the development and custom space, not big as far as that goes. So I will leave it at that. I know you guys are running overtime, and I don't want to.
We're not over that. Thank you.
I don't want to delay anybody from missing out on a farmer's market.
Thank you. I also agree we don't need to write our own software. I absolutely agree. Action.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike Adelman, a 9-year resident of Park.
Yeah.
38, also Corporation Federal. But I came here this morning to fence at the remaining 17 domestic bees. But I want to thank Bob and Bob clarifying that. There's only 17 of them left. Attrition keeps going on. They'll be down to 0. Lost 5 cars last year. But my only point on it, I have no problem with. I fully agree with the situation in Canada. They are creating one heck of a mess. Don't see doing anything domestic that have the effect on the population. 13 domestic left. I actually counted this morning. So, Southgate, plus one straggler, one month. I expect next up. And then there's 3 at Northgate. One thing you could do fairly quickly, probably, without much expense, think that they have any effect on going in east, migrating east, take 3 Northgate down the rest of Southgate, see if it has an effect. Yeah. That's just a suggestion. At any rate, on the second point, having given part of the resident, you don't have the expertise in-house right in our evaluate. You got to be really careful. Points you make, extremely valid. Like I said 38 years. I'm not current, but now that fast changing technology, especially in your education, I think you might have the same problem with anybody that's retired community. I think you're really better off trying to get somebody from the outside to consult, evaluate your needs, draft the RFP, not be a part of, not be a bid.
That's an excellent point, Mr. President, because this is a fast-moving architect. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I do it.
Sure.
It is tempting to think that the solution is as simple as getting someone with credentials to do the design part and the RFP part, that sort of stuff, and then you hire a contractor. The fact of the matter is, unless you have a lot of things, nobody is willing to do that. If they do the design, they want the business of implement, because there's a fair amount of money in that kind of business. When I was at Intel, we had the economic power to force that kind of stuff, and I could easily get people to design, and they got no part of the bill. We don't have that kind of power. We don't begin to have that kind of power. And just for perspective, if you're thinking numbers, I was the small guy at Intel buying stuff, and I bought $1.5 billion for hardware company. I had, you talk about purchasing power, I had a lot. We don't have it. And it's worth a look-see to see if there's anybody out there who would do that. We may have even done that here. You won't find anybody really. They're just not going to split the business. There's not enough. That's the bottom line. So it's a great idea. It just doesn't work unless you're a player in a different.
I've seen it work.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is we are going to move very judiciously here. I like Jeff, I used to procurement for Verizon, $500 million range is what he's doing. Had a lot of pull, whatever that is. But we will be as careful as we possibly can. This is our money we're trying to protect. At the end of the day, we need to come up with something that gives us, to Slobodan's point, not just a repeat of the actions and the procedures we've already got, but gets us in a position for the future we need. So there's a lot of moving pieces here we have to.
One more quick. You also have to remember that the value here to OPA literally has nothing to do with money. Value to OPA are the systems that allow us to operate the place, that allow members to do a bunch of things they might like to do and can't. That's where the value is. It's in what comes here and what the systems will allow us to do.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Edna Martin. I'm here to support the case. I hear a lot about the number of days that we have, but the main problem is the food system. It's on and called pollution, and it makes that part very hard to navigate and have it on. Walk the dog at the top. This food machine, I know I've sent off.
Just for the record, to give her credit, Edna is the one who brought us the idea of the machine pick up the droppings. So thank you for bringing us part of the solution.
It's just a long-term solution. It takes care of the pollution, takes care of keeping your park clean. Needs to stay. I mean, at least it's worth a try. I know you could even, if you could keep clean, charge other people in their area. I know there's a lot of big casino. I know that there's on the way down by the not one organization, Main Society, they all ask, don't dare. I mean, you and I sounds like peaceful death. Anything but Roundup is brutal, and it takes a long, agonized death forever, and they do nothing to harm them. So I hope they will consider, and I hope if there's anything that I can do with happy help. I've contacted the National Wildlife Organization. They also have birth control
I just want to make sure everybody heard what you two were talking to each other last time. We've had a lot of emails from lots of folks, a lot of passion here. Edna has actually brought forward something that might actually help us solve the issue. Anybody who's got an idea out there, a study from another community, any information we can get that helps us solve the issue, we would be more than happy to receive it. I think I can speak for everybody up here. There's not a one of us up here who's looking forward to, and euthanizing is too easy a phrase to say, correct. Killing geese. That's not something we want to vote to do, but we do have a problem, and any solutions that people can bring forward, send us, by all means, bring them so that we have a full set of options to review, and then go from there.
I'm going to go back if there's no other.
Any other comments from the?
And back again, Carol Mill. About parking. I think it's kind of interesting or disappointing way that you're having public comments on the review of the budget. So I'm assuming that the $20 is still in the budget. I've seen no justification for this. Marty said it was a cash cow. It's more like a cash cow. Taking in over $400,000 revenue, and the expenditure is the $60,000 rate. What's the justification? That still does not give those of us who pay $20 increase. You still don't have any better chance of getting a parking place up there. You never did. So, again, I say, why? And also, I'll say again, I had support outside after the meeting. So when it comes to people standing up, and most of them that were supporting aren't here today, people don't have guts to stand up and say something.
Thank you for having the guts to stand up for what you believe in, and I mean that sincerely. That wasn't a joke. I think it's important that folks do come here and present their case. These budgets are not easy to put together. There's a lot of work behind it and a lot of passion.
Did you hear
Golf
the
course.
No, I did not.
Carol, would you repeat your question?
I said,
Where's it going?
The revenue goes into the general fund from the fees that are paid for the parking passes go into the general fund, which add up to the revenues that counteract the expenses, and at the end of the day, we end up with a zero budget at the end of the year. Our objective and requirement as a nonprofit is to put together a zero budget, revenues versus expenses.
there's got to be a better way to unpack.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, one other thing. We talk about the beach club park, and I mean, you go over there, and unless you get there at the crack of dawn, 4:40 in the afternoon, you sit in that line, and you wait, to get in, money comes out, get the win. Has the board, and maybe this is insane, has the board ever considered putting a second deck in the parking lot up?
I believe that other boards have, and I know we've talked about it. It's never been a motion while I've been here, but I know discussion loosely has been. Marty, you may know more.
It's never seriously been.
No, okay.
I mean,
yeah.
there was more serious consideration to selling it. Than there was to doubling the park.
Fair answer is no.
Is it worth asking the board? Ask somebody, contractor. I don't know who you'd ask. Ballpark. What do you think it would cost to put a deck up? I don't know.
Add more spaces.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's double the spaces you have.
Thank you. Any other? We can do that. That's not bad. Yes. Wanted to go back.
I do. First, I'll go back to comments on. Yeah, well, Bob, I've got in my budget. Is that pretty accurate? I mean, it shows there's 12.
I hope so.
I mean, it shows 11 empty slips. It shows looks like 6 of them are being set aside probably for the yacht club.
That's correct. That is correct.
But then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 others that are just don't have a name attached to them. Those are the empty slips last
That's
year.
correct.
If we do the, just the way it's in the budget book, the across the board increase, I think it's 10, and I don't have any way to know which is what feet or not, so I'm sort of guessing a little bit. But it looks to me like it's going to be between $7,500 and $8,000 in increased income if we fill her up and everybody pays. Okay. And we're not going to fill her up because we're holding 6 spaces out. So, but say we're going to do $7,000 more revenues if we sell it out. But if we have 11 empty spaces again next year, that's equal to about $14,000 of not getting. So I'm just reinforcing really what Mr. Powers was saying. Actually, 4.5 slips is worth $2,000. It's a lot of money compared to what we're getting back in return. I know we said we had a lot of thought in this. Quite frankly, the first time I knew the slips were so busy. The beach parking lot, I'm going to say, how much that's just, it's gouging.
Anybody else? Okay. Final review, Cordwell, your motion.
Motion. Be it resolved that the board hereby approves the proposed budget for fiscal year 2015. Budget was modified following presentation to the membership at a public hearing on February 15, 2014. Budget reflects total revenues of $10,229,558, operating expenses and transfers of the same amount, basic annual assessment of $909, and capital expenditures of $3,190,358.
I will second that.
Okay. As it says in the background here, you might as well go ahead and read that.
Okay. After guidance from the board of directors to the general manager and his staff produced the budget. This budget was extensively reviewed by the Budget and Finance Committee, which made recommendations to the directors. The board of directors did another extensive review of the proposed budget and made changes to the existing proposed budget. The budget, after changes, was then presented to the membership. After careful consideration, the budget is now being presented for approval by the Ocean Pines directors.
Discussion. I mean, we've discussed this in numerous meetings already. But
Well, you know what? It's not a small job.
no, it's not.
And we just sat here, thanks to Bob's diligence. I mean, he was going out on this aquatics budget and chopped that forest pretty thin. I mean, I just saw $135,000 that we could take out of the capital spending part of this budget next year without blinking an eye. And then, in fact, we could add 20, take 100 out, we got enough left over to, which is all we need. And why I know that you're big on parking things, but I'm not. As soon as you put it in the budget, I heard Bob say today, we're talking about the police station, it's in the budget. Yeah.
I'm confused. We can't take that out of the budget because we're swapping it. Is that correct, Tom?
Not that we're not. That's in next year's budget. It's in the budget we're about to approve. Of course I can take it out.
No, that's what I mean.
We have $175,000.
We're not doing sports corp for this year.
I'm not talking about last year's budget. We've already done that.
You're not listening to me. Listen. We're taking money. We're did I hear you correctly? Is that correct? We are swapping projects. So we can't do anything with that aquatics committee next year.
I believe what, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, Marty, I think what he's referring to is the splash.
Oh, okay. There's $175,000 in the budget we're about to approve for a splash pad that we just voted to spend. How much on it? How much do we end up spending on
It
the
was
splash?
38 plus so
$40,000. So it was, that's right, $40,000. Well, that leaves us with $135,000 we're approving. Nowhere to go. So I say let's keep 35 of it in there for our pool covers, which I think we all agree we need. And we can deduct $100,000 out of our capital spending plan right now, and there shouldn't be even a discussion about it. Or use that money to lower our fees.
Well, first of all, because I'm not sure what they think.
No, I don't have a response for that.
Bob, I need to know because I'm new on the board. These things come up, and you've done a great job in eliminating some expense that you originally proposed to us in the budget. So so it's no inference on you, but what's the procedure? How do you adjust the budget? Once we've gone through the whole process of approving the daggone thing in committee, and now we find out that there's a potential. What is it, Marty? $100 and some odd thousand dollars.
$100,000 easy.
How do we deal with it? How do we work?
Well, a couple things. There has been extensive work on this year's budget. We're offering our membership a $5 decrease from last year's budget number. The board's approved that. We will, throughout the year, have pluses and minuses. It's a budget, nothing set in stone. So with that being said, we found some savings here. And we made a recommendation where we have those savings. I don't recommend going back redoing our budget numbers for this particular savings. We may run into something halfway through the year that costs us. Having the funding there, then I'm going to have to come and say, just like we just did one, and it was $8,300 above what we had budgeted. So you're going to have those. A budget's, and I hate to say it, but using your term from 2 weeks ago, squishy, and it's not a real technical term, but you have to be able to flex up and down. So to make a change now sounds good. We're going to have to step back, redo all our numbers for it. I'm not sure it's worth it. Wherever we can make savings, we do. We've demonstrated that.
Yeah, and let's understand that any expenditure of that money will have to come back to us to approve anyway. And one other clarification, that in the removal of this, what you're talking about, Marty, it's a reserve replacement dollars we're talking about, which is already in the savings account, so it's not going to affect the $909 dues affect the $5 decrease, which, by the way, Bill, if I'm correct, you looked at the records back to 1971. This organization has never lowered the dues for its members before. I think it's a pretty good idea. It's about time we try to.
But it is a good idea since we've increased the dues millions over the last 5 years. So it is a good idea. I'm not opposed to lowering dues. What I am opposed to is doing a budget based on the best information available. 3 weeks ago, 175 was the best information available. Today, we have a bid of 38,000. Call it 40. Why not change that number? It is not a big deal.
Well,
Take it out of your capital budget. We already have over 700,000 in capital budget parked.
Okay, Marty, you made your point.
I'm not trying to make a point. I'm
You
trying
made
to
your
get it
point.
out.
Yeah, well, I know you are.
And
I'm not agreeing with it, but you can make a motion if you
how
wish
do
to.
I
Just make a motion.
change his motion? It won't. Never mind.
It's not gonna, yeah. Any other comments?
Never mind.
I think this is obviously the right step to take. I won't say it's about. I think we're in the right direction. Any other comments from anyone? Call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Thank you. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. This was a long, drawn-out effort, folks, and there's a lot of work done behind this. So I really want to thank again the advisory committee, the budget and finance, everybody involved in this. This was a very smooth but challenging budget. It's not easy to get to where we are. Okay, parking.
Let me just correct the general manager that the term squishy is a bona fide term, and you may not think it's technical, but we do.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you could turn towards me for a second, I'm going to talk to you about the situation that's going on in our community. I don't know that we can take a motion today or not, but I want to put this in front of folks because I think this is a good situation. Marty, you and I both went out and investigated this. We have a situation where on a cul-de-sac, there is a home here that has obviously a front yard of grass and a swale of front grass. We have a house here and a house here. This house has a perfectly fine cement driveway. And someone who lives at this house on a daily basis is parking their car either all the way into the grass, off the road, or barely onto the road in front of this house that they do not own. Now, I'm sorry, but this just makes no sense to me. Why someone would be allowed, and again, let me blow this up. Here's the house, this house here. Here's the road, and this is ostensibly the front yard. Here's the swale. This car is parking here. Now, technically, this house doesn't own that little piece of property. It's the right-of-way. But for all intents and purposes, it's the front yard of this person's house. This person has been asked over and over again to please stop parking there. This person is planting the grass, they cut the grass, they try to take care of it. Now, as a board, I'm sorry, I've tried to look at the rules that we've got in place. It's not easily enforceable, but in my mind, there has been a complaint. I'm not asking for our CPI people to go around trying to be traffic cops. But if somebody complains about something like this, where it's repeated over and over again, to me, this is something as an organization, as members, we should be allowed to and empowered to say to this member, you need to stop doing this. This doesn't make any sense. You've got a cement driveway, and because you don't want to have to move the cars around, you think it's okay for you to go park in somebody else's, ostensibly, their front yard. So I personally think that's wrong. I really do. If you think I'm passionate about it, you're right. Common sense is common sense, and this is not common sense. Nobody in this house should not be allowed to park their car in the front of somebody else's house, in the grass, in their front yard. And the only way they're getting away with it is because it's in the swale, or they're close enough to the road, or whatever the rules are. I mean, Bob and I have looked at the rules that exist. This is something that really comes down to what do we as an organization, as members, we can't look to the county, we can't look to state law, we can't look to all this regulatory stuff that's out there. Because there's, technically speaking, this car's not violating the rules. Now, I have a real problem. Marty, you were out there with me looking at this. This is ridiculous.
You and I are in total disagreement on this because I'm going to read you the rule.
I know what the rule says.
Every person that's bought a lot in Ocean Pond, sections 1 through 13, a couple of 14s, and somewhere, I believe in most of the new sections, reads the following. General prohibitions and requirements in section 11 at O. No vehicle shall be parked on any street or subdivision. That is meant the way it's written.
Correct.
Period. Now, we can get into the, well, what if I'm having a party? What if there's a funeral? What if this? What if that? This is written in here because we have very small streets. The same restriction is enforced at Lake Linganore Association in Frederick County.
You and I are not in disagreement when we read that rule. Unfortunately, the problem is this person is off the road, and they're into the grass.
I guess you're going to have to get a lawyer to interpret it, because
Well,
Lake
again,
Linganore would tow that vehicle.
I just wanted to tee this up for this board of directors to think about. I'm not asking you to take action today, but as far as I'm concerned, this action here
And Marty's not right. He's not wrong. He's read the rule. The rule says what it says. You can argue that that rule is trumped by other people. Bottom line is, folks, this, in my opinion, is wrong. And as members of this organization, we need to think of a way that we can address this issue. Now, I'm not talking about people parking door to party and all that stuff. This is ongoing where, in my mind, this isn't right.
It's a case of common courtesy.
Yes.
But suppose an individual in a neighborhood occasionally, and let's say that could be 4 times a month, has a bridge group open, which would be 8 cars parked in front of their house or in the neighborhood. Well, I mean, if it's wrong to do it in this instance,
It's wrong to do it that way.
could it possibly be interpreted by somebody as saying, well, it's wrong to do it in that instance? It's common courtesy. You're absolutely correct. It's not the right thing to do. But I'm just trying to deal with.
Jack, you're right. I can't solve it. If otherwise, I would have come here pushing today.
Right.
I just wanted to present the situation that somewhere along the line, there's got to be some level of common sense.
Well, let me
that
take
we
it one
put in
step
place.
forward. Are you saying that there's a regulation in place that says something about parking off the streets? Is that what you're saying?
I just read it.
I was over there getting more.
In
our community.
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Let me answer your question. I know what your question is.
Yes or no?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Now, could that be enforced by the police department or by us?
Reality is the rule that you're referring to.
Yes.
There is a count because and there is a disagreement here. Okay, there is a disagreement. Mr. Clark, I think I can state that believes that what he just read is enforceable. Our legal department says since our roads have been put into the county inventory, the county law applies, which says you can park on county roads. Okay, so now that the roads are
we
in,
have that right.
we're not going to argue that
Do
here.
we have that right? I've never seen that opinion.
My ears can hear. We've talked about it. We don't.
I've never seen that.
There's a disagreement on that.
Right,
okay.
right.
Reality is it's going
We're
to
trying to resolve the problems, basically.
Yeah.
But it's a catch-22. That's my.
It is. All right. I just wanted to bring that to the attention of this board. We're going to go back and forth as to what the rules are. The reality is, right now, there is no rule that stops this person from doing this, and I think we ought to find a way to stop it, because I don't. Okay, I'm done with my speech.
A little bit of sugar in a gas tank will stop.
No. Thank you. All right, Robert.
Who said that?
Spoken by a retired police
Get them on a
That's the
record there.
first one I've heard about. Okay, Bob.
2 violations, 58 is the first one to look at, Nottingham. So, the car,
That's a lovely
what the
car.
looks like. You also notice the common denominator that we do on most of the pieces, assessment past due.
Yep.
We'd like to forward this to our attorney to start the legal process.
Well,
Yes, sir.
but I'll make a motion that we find this person in continuing violation. But before I take the next step, say send to our attorney. The guy owes us $10,000. Our attorney ought to know him on a first name basis. If we haven't already sued this guy, we are not doing it right.
Unless there's no equity in the house, so you
No,
can.
no, sue him for his paycheck, for his equity in his car, which is obviously not got much. The fact is, forget foreclosing, sue. The man owes us $10,000. We should have sued him when he owed us
How do
$3.
you know we haven't?
Okay, 4.
I don't. That's what I'm asking you.
The issue in front of this board is to whether or not to hold this person in continuous violation and move it to the debate over whether suing or not, or have sued or haven't sued, is a discussion to be held in the next few weeks. No, you not disagreement. So you want to finish your motion? Do something about this?
You know what? I don't want to make a motion. If this guy's not already getting sued,
Okay.
my motion would be different.
Then I will make the motion to have this person put in
motion and turn it over to our.
I'll second that.
Needs more discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Next.
Twelve 60
Yeah.
is the next one. The tanks are required to be screened. And they put a rear deck, no permits.
So these people refuse to screen their stuff?
That's correct.
Unless they put it.
Wait a minute, we got 2 unclaimed letters.
We made,
He does have one received a month and a half ago, 2 months ago.
These guys' dues are paid. Interesting.
Yeah, but I don't see a phone call from the guy. Left a message, I guess that's it.
Is it year-round resident? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, the reality is this person's been reached out to in numerous ways to try to get them to respond. They've ignored the rules for building, no permit for the deck.
Motion to find continuous violation, send to the attorney for action.
Have a second.
Discussion. Send him to the attorney for what action?
attorney.
The same action that we've had for the people in Willow for over a year and a half and nothing happens. We have the option of going on this property and screening it, and setting them a bill.
Part of it is also permitting. He has no permitting for his deck.
It's not just that. You can't tear him.
So we're going to sue it?
Look, all right. We have a process here that I don't like the way that these processes take every year either. But the reality is those are the processes we have. So if we want to fix the process that we live on, let's address that at some other point. If we do need to change what we do and how we do it and how we address these things, by all means, let's have that debate. But we have a process that we have to live under right now, and this is what we've got. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I just have one quick question. Looks like the member was contacted a week ago. Do we have any written or verbal response to what happened when he was contacted?
I'd like to know. I'll just get rid of it. Oh.
But we don't know.
No, I don't know.
Okay, all right.
All those
All right,
in
I'm
favor?
in favor.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. One opposed. Okay, any other?
I don't.
All right, I've got 3 appointments without objection. We'll do them all together. Skip Schlesinger to Recreation Parks, Barbara Coughlin to Environmental, and John Weitzelberger to Clubs. Any objection to these appointments?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Media questions?
They all left.
They did.
They got tired.
I'm still here.
Oh,
What do you mean they all left?
There's 2. What are you talking about? More press members.
Put it on the record. The board does recognize that there are 3 media people in the room right now. Okay, motion to adjourn.